As what if one day the universe stopped speaking to you? No signs, no synchronicities, no whispers in the silence. Would you think the magic was gone, or could it mean the real transformation had just begun? Have you ever had a season in life where everything just clicked? Where every little coincidence seemed like a secret whisper from the universe? You glance at the clock, and it's 11:11. You think about someone, and seconds later, they call. You wish for guidance, and the right opportunity falls into your lap, as if summoned by thought alone. It feels magical. It feels divine. It feels as though the universe itself has conspired to place you on the path of destiny. But then, just as suddenly as it began, it all stops. No more repeating numbers. No more chance encounters. No more hidden clues. The once living dialogue between you and the universe falls silent. And in that silence, an uneasy question begins to haunt you. Have I been abandoned? Most people don't know what to do at this point. Some spiral into fear. Others desperately try to force the signs back, checking clocks obsessively, clinging to symbols, searching for meaning where none appears. But the silence remains. If you've ever felt this, if you've ever sensed that the mysterious magic of synchronicity has vanished from your life, you are not alone. In fact, you are exactly where you're meant to be. Because the disappearance of synchronicity does not mean the universe has gone quiet. It means something far greater is happening, something hidden, something powerful. This is the moment when the universe stops speaking in symbols, so it can begin to transform you. This is the silence before the shift. Think of synchronicities as the fireflies of your spiritual journey. They appear like tiny flashes of light, reassuring you that you're not lost. Each coincidence glows with meaning, guiding you deeper into trust. But just as you grow comfortable, the fireflies vanish, leaving only darkness. The forest feels unfamiliar. The path ahead seems invisible, and fear begins to creep in. But what you don't see, what you can't see, is that in this very darkness, your eyes are adjusting. A new sense is awakening within you. And for that to happen, the lights must go out. This is what ancient mystics called the void, a space between worlds, a pause between the old self and the new, a silence that is not empty, but full of unseen creation. Carl Jung, the man who first coined the word synchronicity, hinted at this mysterious solemnity. He believed that when synchronicities fade, it isn't because the unconscious has gone quiet. It's because the unconscious is rearranging itself, building a new pattern so profound that your old way of perceiving can no longer recognize it. In other words, you're not abandoned. You're being rewired. Quantum physics, too, offers a mirror for this mystery. At the subatomic level, particles exist in a haze of possibilities, a field of uncertainty. The moment they are observed, they collapse into form. But before that collapse, before reality locks into what you can see, there is silence, stillness, a hidden dance of infinite potential. When synchronicities vanish, your life is entering that same hidden dance. The universe is collapsing one version of your reality, preparing to reveal another. But to you, it feels like emptiness, and that emptiness is terrifying. We are addicted to signs because they comfort us. They assure us that something larger is guiding our steps. But the deeper truth is this: the universe does not want you to rely on signs forever. At some point, it removes the crutch. It pulls away the training wheels. It stops holding your hand. Why? Because you are not meant to follow signs forever. You are meant to become the sign. But here's the paradox. If synchronicities are real communication from the universe, then why would the universe stop speaking? Why would it allow you to feel abandoned, lost, and disconnected, precisely at the moment when you need reassurance most? The answer is not simple, and it is not comforting. Because the truth is, silence is the only language powerful enough to prepare you for transformation. When the signs stop, it's not because the magic has disappeared. It's because the magic is moving from outside of you to inside of you. The external coincidences give way to internal alignment, and internal alignment is the birthplace of the quantum shift. But here's the danger. Most people never make it past the silence. They panic. They assume the universe has abandoned them, and in their desperation, they try to force synchronicities to return. They chase symbols, cling to rituals, and exhaust themselves searching for proof that the connection is still alive. But chasing the old signs is like trying to catch shadows. The more you grasp, the further they slip away. The silence will not be broken by desperation. It will only deepen. So what are you supposed to do when synchronicities disappear? How do you survive the terrifying stillness when all the proof of guidance has been stripped away? You wait. You listen. You surrender. Because in the silence, something invisible is unfolding. A process the mystics, philosophers, and even physicists have all tried to describe, but none have fully captured. It is the threshold. The bridge between who you were and who you are about to become. And once you understand this, once you see the silence not as a void, but as a womb, your fear dissolves into awe. The truth is this: synchronicity doesn't disappear. It evolves. The fireflies of coincidence may vanish, but only because the stars are preparing to emerge. And only the chapters ahead, we will uncover what this silence really means. Why the universe chooses to hide its hand, and how this mysterious pause is the beginning of a transformation so profound that the old signs could never contain it. Because sometimes the absence of signs is the sign, and the question is, will you have the courage to stay in the silence long enough to witness what comes next? Silence has always terrified us. Since the dawn of time, humans have feared the stillness of the night, the gaps between heartbeats, the void between stars. We cling to patterns and signs because they reassure us that life is not random, that the universe speaks, that something greater is guiding us. But when synchronicities fade, when the universe stops whispering through numbers, coincidences, and chance encounters, we are forced to face the most uncomfortable truth of all. We don't know what comes next. Carl Jung once described synchronicity as a meaningful coincidence, a crack in the facade of reality where the unconscious and the outer world suddenly touch. For many, synchronicity feels like proof that the mind and the universe are woven together in ways science can barely explain. But Jung also warned of something else, an unsettling truth. The unconscious mind is not a passive observer. It is alive. It grows. It shifts. It evolves. When synchronicities vanish, it may not mean the unconscious has fallen silent. It may mean the unconscious is reorganizing itself, moving you toward a new pattern of being that your conscious mind cannot yet grasp. In other words, you haven't lost synchronicity. You've outgrown the version of yourself that could see it. Modern physics hints at a parallel explanation. At the smallest level of existence, reality is not solid, predictable, or fixed. It exists as a cloud of possibilities, a shimmering field of probability. What collapses this field into the reality you see? Observation, consciousness itself. Synchronicities may be glimpses of that hidden field, tiny cracks where the possible and the actual bleed into one another. But when synchronicities vanish, something remarkable may be happening. Your consciousness is preparing to collapse into a new state of being. And just like in quantum experiments, before collapse, there is silence, a pause in which infinite possibilities swirl unseen. You are standing in that pause, a living wave of potential waiting to become form. But here lies the paradox. If synchronicities are proof of alignment, then their absence feels like proof of disconnection. It feels like betrayal. And yet, silence is not disconnection. It is preparation. Think of it like music. What gives a song its power is not just the notes, but the pauses between them. The silence between sounds is what creates rhythm, our tension and release. If synchronicities are music, then silence is the rest before the crescendo. The pause is not the end of the song. It is the moment before the melody returns, more powerful than before. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people never survive the silence. When the universe goes quiet, they panic. They assume they've fallen out of alignment, lost their path, or been abandoned. And in their desperation, they sabotage the very transformation that was unfolding. They chase meaningless symbols. They cling to old patterns. They try to resurrect a past frequency instead of allowing a new one to be born. But the silence is not here to test your patience. It is here to destroy the old version of you. And destruction is never comfortable. Mystics across traditions have described this moment. In Buddhism, it is called the void, a stage of emptiness before awakening. In alchemy, it was the negredo, the blackening, where the old form is dissolved so something new can be reborn. Even in Christian mysticism, saints spoke of the dark night of the soul, a silence so unbearable that it felt like God had vanished, when in truth, the soul was being purified. Different cultures, different languages, but always the same truth. When the signs disappear, the transformation begins. Even neuroscience mirrors this. When the brain undergoes major rewiring, like learning a new language, healing trauma, or breaking an old habit, it enters a period of disruption. The old connections weaken. The new ones are not yet stable. The mind feels lost, fragmented, uncertain. But beneath the chaos, the brain is literally reshaping itself. What feels like silence is actually reprogramming. So whether we look through the lens of psychology, neuroscience, mysticism, or quantum physics, the story is the same. The silence is not a void. It is construction hidden beneath the surface. But this raises a deeper question. Why would the universe take away its guidance at the exact moment you need it most? The answer is as unnerving as it is liberating. Because you are no longer meant to rely on external proof. Synchronicities are the universe's way of teaching you trust. But once you've learned to trust, the universe removes the training wheels. The signs vanish not because you've lost your path, but because you've grown strong enough to walk it without constant reassurance. You are being asked to shift from dependence to embodiment, from following signs to becoming the sign. And this is the threshold. The silence is not punishment, it is initiation. When synchronicities fade, you are standing in the doorway between who you were and who you are becoming. But here's the truth. Few are willing to face. This threshold demands surrender. You cannot drag the old self across. You cannot bribe the silence with rituals, affirmations, or desperate searching. You must dissolve into it, because only in dissolving can you be remade. And now the silence stretches on. Days pass without signs. Weeks go by without whispers of alignment. You question everything. You fear you've lost the path forever. But what if this emptiness is not abandonment? What if it is gestation? What if, in this silence, the universe is not gone, but closer than ever before? In the next chapter, we will explore what truly begins to unfold inside you during this silence, why the disappearance of synchronicities is not the end of the conversation, but the beginning of a hidden dialogue that only the brave ever discover. Because beyond the silence lies the quantum shift. There is a moment in every seeker's journey when the silence stretches on longer than expected. At first, you wait patiently, trusting the signs will return. But days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, and the emptiness begins to feel unbearable. You start to wonder, what if the silence never ends? What if the universe really has abandoned me? What if all those synchronicities were just illusions, random accidents I only imagined had meaning? This is the breaking point, the razor's edge where most people turn back. But what if the silence isn't a void at all? What if the silence is speaking? Silence has a language, but it is not spoken through numbers or symbols. It is spoken through you. The universe withdraws its outer guidance so you can hear the whisper of your inner world. A whisper that has always been there, but drowned out by the noise of external signs. When synchronicities vanish, your attention turns inward. The coincidences you once searched for outside now emerge as feelings, dreams, and subtle nudges within. It is the beginning of a hidden dialogue, not between you and the universe, but between you and yourself. Neuroscience has revealed something fascinating about transformation. When you learn something new, or when your life is about to shift dramatically, the brain enters a state of instability. The old neural pathways weaken. The new ones are not yet formed, and in that gap, the brain feels lost, like it is in a fog. This neurological fog mirrors the silence of the universe. You feel disconnected, disoriented, uncertain. But beneath the surface, your brain is rewiring itself. A new version of you is forming. The silence you fear is actually evidence of growth. The mystics of every age knew this. The yogis of India called it pratyahara, the withdrawal of the senses, where outer stimulation vanishes so that inner awareness can awaken. The Sufi mystics of Persia described it as fana, the dissolution of the self, where the old identity dies so the soul can glimpse unity with the divine. And in Kabbalah, it was called tzimtzum, the divine contraction, when God withdraws his light so creation can emerge. Different names, different traditions, but always the same pattern. Silence is not absence. Silence is preparation. Silence is the womb of transformation. But here's the part we don't like to talk about. When synchronicities disappear and the outer guidance is gone, something else begins to rise from within. The shadow. Old wounds you thought you buried begin to resurface. Traumas you escaped come knocking at your door. Habits, fears, and doubts return louder than ever. It feels like regression. It feels like failure. But in truth, it is cleansing. Because in the silence, there is no distraction left. What was hidden must now be faced. The absence of synchronicity forces you to meet the parts of yourself you've avoided for years. And only by facing them can you be transformed. But this is where the silence becomes dangerous, because the shadow is persuasive. It whispers that the magic is gone forever, that you are foolish forever believing, that the universe is indifferent, and that the coincidences were only random chaos. If you believe the shadow, you will retreat, you will abandon the path, and the silence will become nothing more than despair. But if you endure the shadow, if you sit with the pain, the doubt, the emptiness, you will discover something extraordinary. Beneath the silence, beneath the fear, beneath the shadow itself, something new begins to stir. At first, they are almost imperceptible. Not the dramatic synchronicities of before. No 11:11 flashing on clocks, no strangers repeating your thoughts aloud. Instead, they come as subtle waves, a quiet knowing that arises from nowhere. A dream that feels more real than waking life. A sudden calm in the midst of your chaos. These are not coincidences. They are recalibrations. The universe is no longer speaking to you through outer signs. It is speaking through resonance inside your very being. The silence is not silence at all. It is the sound of a new self being born. Quantum physics teaches us that reality is not fixed. It is fluid, shaped by observation, energy, and vibration. When synchronicities vanish, you are not disconnected. You are in the quantum field, in the process of shifting into resonance with a new frequency. Think of it like a radio station. When you switch frequencies, there is static, noise, disruption, but the static is not the end. It is the transition between signals. The silence you are experiencing is the static of your reality adjusting. A new signal is forming, and when it locks in, the synchronicities will return, not as they were before, but on a higher frequency, aligned with the new you. But here lies the test. The silence will demand one to hing of you. Surrender. Not resignation, not despair, but true surrender. The ability to release your need for control, to trust the unseen, to allow the transformation to unfold at its own pace. If you can surrender, you will not just survive the silence, you will be reborn through it. And this is where the real mystery begins. Because once you surrender to the silence, something remarkable unfolds. The absence of synchronicity gives way to a deeper state, a hidden alignment that no longer requires signs to prove itself. In the next chapter, we will uncover the true nature of this alignment and how the quantum shift begins to reveal itself in your daily life. Because the silence was never empty, it was always full of the future you, waiting to emerge. At first, the silence feels endless. You wait, you doubt, you question whether the universe has turned its back. But then, something begins to change. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It doesn't arrive as flashing numbers on a clock or a sudden message from a stranger. It begins as something far subtler, a calmness in the middle of chaos, a quiet strength where there used to be fear, an unshakable sense that, even without signs, you are exactly where you're meant to be. This is the first whisper of the shift. The quantum shift does not announce itself with fireworks. It arrives quietly, woven into the fabric of ordinary days. You notice yourself responding differently to challenges. The same situations that once triggered fear now feel strangely manageable. The same arguments that once consumed you now lose their power. It's as if reality itself hasn't changed, but you have. And in that change, the world begins to reflect something new. For the first time, you realize you no longer need synchronicities to feel guided. Instead of searching for external proof, you begin to trust an inner compass. Decisions no longer feel like desperate guesses. They carry a quiet knowing, a sense of resonance, like the subtle vibration of a tuning fork that tells you what aligns and what doesn't. This is the new guidance, not outside of you, but within you. Psychology has a word for this state: embodiment. It happens when knowledge is no longer something you think, but something you are. At first, synchronicities were like training wheels, reminding you that a deeper reality exists. But now that deeper reality is not a reminder. It's your lived experience. Neuroscience shows that when you truly embody a new way of being, your brain rewires itself. New neural pathways are laid down. Your nervous system recalibrates. Your entire body begins to resonate with the new self. This is not imagination, it is transformation. But here lies the paradox. As the shift begins, the universe still remains quiet. No fireworks, no flood of synchronicities, just a deeper alignment within. And for many, this is the most dangerous part of the journey. Because without dramatic signs, the ego grows restless. It whispers, maybe nothing has changed. Maybe you're fooling yourself. Maybe the silence means it's all in your head. This is the final test. The moment when you must decide whether to return to chasing signs or to trust the inner alignment you now embody. And if you endure, if you trust, something remarkable begins to happen. Not as a flood, but as a trickle. Not as fireworks, but as sparks. The synchronicities return. But this time, they feel different. They no longer arrive as proof to calm your doubts. They arrive as confirmation of what you already know. The clock strikes 11:11, and you smile, not because it reassures you, but because you were already aligned before it appeared. The right person shows up at the right time, not because you were desperate for validation, but because your new frequency naturally drew them in. The synchronicities return not as guides, but as mirrors of the shift that has already taken place inside you. Physics has a word for this: coherence. When particles vibrate in harmony, their energy multiplies, creating a unified field greater than the sum of its parts. When you reach coherence within yourself, when your thoughts, emotions, and actions vibrate as one, your life begins to reorganize around that frequency. Opportunities arise without effort. Relationships align with ease. The external world bends to the resonance you carry inside. This is not coincidence. This is coherence. And coherence is the language of the quantum shift. But notice the difference. In the beginning, synchronicities felt like lifelines, proof that you were not alone. Now they feel like reflections, echoes of a truth you already embody. The universe no longer needs to shout through coincidences, because you are already listening. Because you are already aligned. The silence was never abandonment, it was initiation. And now you are living the proof of that initiation. But here's the question: if the silence transforms you, if the shift realigns your being, then what happens next? What happens when you begin to live not as the seeker of signs, but as the source of them? In the next chapter, we will uncover the final stage of the journey, when you no longer chase synchronicities, because your very presence becomes the synchronicity for others. The shift is not complete until you realize this truth. You are not waiting for the universe to speak. You are the universe speaking. What if I told you the journey was never about chasing signs? The repeating numbers, the mysterious coincidences, the whispers of alignment, they were never the destination. They were only the breadcrumbs, guiding you toward a truth so profound, so radical, that it changes everything. And that truth is this: you are not meant to follow synchronicity forever. You are meant to become it. The silence stripped you bare. It dismantled the version of you that relied on proof, reassurance, and outer validation. In that silence, you surrendered. You faced the shadow. You discovered an alignment within yourself that required no signs to confirm it. And now, the shift is complete. Because when you embody that alignment, something extraordinary happens. You stop searching for synchronicities, and synchronicities begin to flow through you. Others begin to notice, not because you speak of mystical things, but because your presence itself feels different. Conversations align in uncanny ways. Your timing feels perfect. Your presence feels magnetic. You have become the mirror through which others experience synchronicity. Your life itself becomes the coincidence they needed to encounter. And this is the highest form of the quantum shift, to stop chasing signs and to live in such alignment that your existence is the sign. Even science confirms this. In physics, when one tuning fork vibrates, another nearby begins to resonate without being touched. The same is true of human beings. Your nervous system, your thoughts, your emotions, they are frequencies. And when you embody coherence, others around you cannot help but resonate with it. You no longer need to convince anyone. You no longer need to search for proof. You simply are, and your being reshapes reality around you. Yes, the synchronicities return, but they are different now. They no longer come to reassure you, they come to affirm you. They no longer appear as breadcrumbs to guide your lost steps. They appear as reflections of the inner truth you already embody. And most importantly, they begin to ripple outward, touching others. Your life becomes a synchronicity, not just for you, but for those around you. And through you, the universe speaks. But here lies the final test. When you realize you are the sign, the ego will be tempted to grasp it, to claim it, to inflate itself. It will whisper, "Look at me. I have awakened. I am special. I am chosen." But the truth is not about being chosen. It is about being emptied. The silence was not here to crown you. It was here to dissolve you, so that what remains is not ego, but alignment. You do not become the sign to elevate yourself. You become the sign to serve. To embody synchronicity is to carry a sacred responsibility, because now others will find their signs in you. Your words may become the exact guidance someone prayed for. Your presence may be the answer to a question they haven't even spoken aloud. And without even knowing it, you become part of their shift. The circle is complete. What once guided you in numbers, whispers, and coincidences now moves through you to guide others. The universe has not abandoned you. It has become you. So when synchronicities vanish, when the silence consumes you, when it feels like you are walking alone through the void, remember this. It is not the end of the conversation. It is the beginning of your transformation. Because the greatest synchronicity of all is not the sign you follow. It is the being you become. And now, the silence has brought you here, to this moment, to these words. Do you think it was random? Do you think you stumbled on this story by accident? Or could it be that this video itself is the synchronicity you were meant to find? The universe has guided you this far, and the shift has already begun. But the journey is not over. There are more truths to uncover, more layers to dissolve, more awakenings waiting in the silence. So if this message resonated with you, stay with us, subscribe. Join this community of seekers, because the shift is not just yours, it is ours, and together we will uncover the mysteries of the universe, one silence at a time.